Hello and welcome to another Sprues and Brews video. Today we are looking at the new Chaos Battletome, Disciples of Tzeentch for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. So first of all, I want to say a massive thanks to Games Workshop for sending us an early free review copy to have a look at a little bit ahead of time and check out on the site. In addition to this video, I've also got a full written review over on spruesandbrews.com as well, so if you want to kind of a deep dive and rather read this rather than watch it, you can do so over there. But yeah, this is the new Battletome for the Disciples of Tzeentch. A couple of months ago we had the Arcane Cataclysm box, and I suspect that this book was meant to drop alongside it, but obviously the god of fate has intervened and it has shifted a little bit from its expected release, but you know, I'm sure it's all in the grand plan of Tzeentch. And yeah, in this video what we'll do is have a look through the book, see what's changed for the army, have a look at the war scrolls, see what amendments have been made there, and have a look at all the points and everything. What we'll say, there's not any massive changes in this book. This is more of a kind of a tidy up for 3rd edition, like we've seen with some of the other Battletomes that have come out. So don't expect any like massive seismic shifts with this book. It's more so tweaks and amendments just to sand over the rough edges, but looks pretty fun. I'm looking forward to getting my Tzeentch force out again and using them with this book. But yeah, without further ado, shall we crack this open and have a look inside? So as ever with all of the 3rd edition books, the book is absolutely gorgeous, filled with artwork and miniature photography. Again, like with all the other books that we've had for this edition as well, the first section of the book goes through the lore. A lot of this is established stuff that we've got, but there is some new stuff in here as well. We get a nice little timeline bringing things up to date to the era of the Beast too, and we learn of a few things that have kind of gone on since the previous book came out a couple of years ago. One of the big things that's happening here is that Tzeentch has infiltrated the Dawnbringer Crusade, so he's got agents planted within the cities of Sigmar, and he's using those agents to kind of, I guess, pull the strings and enact his will in different ways. So for example, we learn that there's this expedition that's due to go to a different location, but due to Tzeentch's manipulation and influence, they actually head into territory that's controlled by the Lumineth, and sparks a little war between the Lumineth and the Dawnbringer Crusade that's gone to do there. So I really like that. It's a shame that you can't do, I don't know, Tzeentchian themed Cities of Sigmar army. In the Path to Glory content that we'll get to in a bit, there's absolutely ways of doing that, which is really cool, but it's a shame that, I don't know, it would have been fun if they could ally in certain Cities of Sigmar units, but I guess from a match play point of view, it would have got a little bit messy to do that. But it's fun that the idea is there that in all these Dawnbringer Crusades there is a high Tzeentch element hidden within it. I think that's pretty fun. But again, yeah, we learn about all the different hosts and cults and the like, and a bit of background information about the various forces that are in the book as well. So obviously old school players will know a lot of this. New players, I highly recommend picking up a Battletome or a Codex if you're thinking about getting a new army. Lets you kind of soak in all the flavour and information about the army and get a feel for kind of who they are and what they do, which is, to me, you know, the narrative's a big part of the hobby. It's kind of fun to learn all that stuff, so highly recommend, not only for the rules content but for the lore, kind of reading all that side of things. Again, like with all the other books, we get a full miniature showcase as well. Obviously for this book the only new miniature really is the Curseling that came out with the battle box a couple of months ago, but the rest of the range is looking really, really nice. There's a couple of older models that still exist that probably could do with a replacement, and as we'll see in the book, some of them are actually really good in the new book as well, so kind of hope that they do get replacements at some point. In here we also get a full painting guide as well. Now unfortunately this is the same painting guide that was in the previous Battletome, so there's no new information there, but it is really handy for kind of learning how to paint Tzeentch units, so it's really good to have for reference. So going on to the actual rules itself, I know a lot of people will be kind of interested in that part of things rather than the lore and the miniatures painting guide. We get some changes to the allegiance abilities and some stuff that stays the same. We'll start with what has remained. So, summoning is still part of the army. Essentially, every time you cast a spell, or an opponent casts a spell and it's not unbound and it successfully goes off, you get what is called a fate point. You accrue these fate points over the course of the game, and then they can be used to summon a unit at the end of your movement phase. So, obviously your Tzeentch army is going to be quite, you know, lots of spells that you're going to be able to cast. It's quite magically adapt. So, you will be generating these pretty quickly with a lot of builds. Starts from like 10 fate points for 3 Screamers, all the way up to 30 fate points for a Lord of Change. And there are things in here that can adapt that too. So yeah, it's kind of a core mechanic. You will be casting a lot of spells. If you're playing against another magic heavy army, so I don't know, Lumineth or Undead for example, there's a potential for you to summon an awful lot of units. So it's nice to have a little bit of a collection of units ready to summon in, which is pretty cool. There's you know, there's a lot of stuff you can do. Being able to bring in new units and like pinch objectives and stuff is a pretty big deal in Age of Sigmar, so summoning mechanics are always pretty strong. Obviously it depends on who you're fighting. If you're fighting something with lots of ability to shut down magic, then you're going to be summoning less, so Khorne for example. But yeah, on average you should be able to summon something cool every turn or two, which is really, really fun. So that has remained the same. The locus of change has also stayed. So if a demon unit is within 12 inches of a demon hero, it's -1 to hit them in melee, making them survive a little bit longer, which is cool. The Destiny dice mechanic, Masters of Destiny, is also still in the book as well. This has not changed. You roll 9 dice at the start of the game. Those dice can then be spent, instead of making a dice roll later in the game, for casting rolls, unbinding rolls, dispelling rolls, run rolls, charge rolls, hit rolls, wound rolls or save rolls, or battle shock rolls, or any roll that determines the damage of a characteristic. So say, I don't know, you were about to take a high damage wound on your Lord of Change, you could pull a 6 from your Destiny dice, so you automatically make that save of 6. You can use multiple Destiny dice as well to do like charge rolls, for example. So if you wanted to make a 9-inch charge, you could pull a 6 and a 3 from your Destiny dice in order to make that. There are ways of replenishing them, and there are ways of changing them as well, but you can never have more than 9 of these dice, and really it's quite a powerful mechanic. Some of the grand strategies also revolve around the Destiny dice too, so yeah, as we're seeing a little bit, there's there's quite some good stuff you can do with them. So that all kind of remains the same. There's still change ovens that you can pick one of and get different abilities from. That's changed a little bit, which we'll see in a bit. More so in that none of the artifacts and command traits are locked behind them anymore. You just kind of get a single army ability for picking one of those change covens. What is new in this book, however, is arcane armies. So in the first battle round, after the players have got their command points, but before the turn has started, you pick one of your Tzeentch wizards and they automatically cast one of the Tzeentch endless spells. That's one of the 3 endless spells in the back of this book. It cannot be unbound, and it cannot be dispelled within the first turn as well. So that's really cool. You get one of those Tzeentch spells off, and the opponent's got to wait until the second turn to get rid of it. And there's some in there that are really good. The Burning Sigil, I think, is my favourite one. And again, we'll see that a little bit later on in the book. But for a start, it gets one of your Tzeentch spells down the board straight away. And secondly, because it still counts as casting a spell, you're always going to start each game with 1 fate point as well to start accruing for this summoning ability. So that's pretty fun. I like that. I kind of wish it was any endless spell, but then it'd probably get a bit silly with everyone just summoning a purple sun at the start of every game, so I get why it's kind of locked those Tzeentch ones. But yeah, nice change, and again, just kind of shows how magically adept the Tzeentch army is. So we get command traits. These have been moved around a little bit. There used to be 3 different like trees for them. Now they just fall under Arcanites or Demons. For the Arcanites, we get Arch Sorcerer. General knows 2 extra spells. Nexus of Fate. If the general's on the battlefield, you can roll the dice and swap one of your Destiny dice for it. Court Demagogue. If the casting roll for the general is a double, the casting attempt is successful and the spell cannot be unbound, and you also receive 2 fate points instead of 1. So that's really, really good for, you know, generating those fate points. Arcane Sacrifice. At the start of your hero phase, you can cause 1 mortal wound to a friendly Tzeentch unit within 3 inches. If you do, you add 9 inches to the range of their spells. Soulburn. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack is a 6, it causes a mortal wound in addition to any other damage. And Illusionist, it's -1 to hit for that general. So some pretty cool stuff. I quite like the Court Demagogue one. Obviously, if you're playing against a magical heavy army, they're casting spells, so you're getting fate points, and then there's a good chance that you're going to get a double, or even use Destiny dice to force a double to get additional fate points when you cast spells. For Tzeentch Demons, you get Arch Sorcerer. Again, they know 2 additional spells. Nexus of Fate. At the start of the hero phase, if he's on the battlefield, you can replace a Destiny dice. Again, same as that one. Incorporeal Form. Whenever they're affected by an endless spell or ability or kind of any magical thing on a 5+, they can ignore that. And then finally, Demon Spark. Once per battle in your hero phase, you can use the Demon Spark to gain 3 fate points. So you could use that, you know, turn 1 and you're starting the game on 4 fate points, which is pretty good. You're not going to need many more to start summoning stuff. Artifacts similarly have split just between Arcanite stuff and Demon stuff as well. So for the Arcanites, the Change Blade, pick one of the weapons. If a hero is slain, it is transformed into a Chaosspawn. So that's pretty cool. In the front of the book, there's also rules to clarify that any spawns that are placed on the battlefield, where they can go, and they're under the Tzeentch player's control. So that's pretty cool. The Time Slip Pendant. Once per battle in the combat phase, after the bearer has fought for the first time in that phase, you can say they're using the Time Slip Pendant. If you do not count as having fought, but the strike last effect applies to them. So basically they fight, and then at the end of the turn they'll fight again. The Demon Heart. Once per battle at the start of the combat phase, pick 1 enemy unit within an inch of the bearer. The unit suffers a number of mortal wounds equal to the number of the current battle round. Yeah, it's okay. Ambition's End. Once per battle at the start of your hero phase, you can pick 1 enemy wizard. The wizard suffers a number of mortal wounds equal to the number of the current battle round, and in addition, they cannot unbind spells until your next hero phase. So very similar to the last one, but kind of looks down magic as well. Secret Eater. Pick one of the bearer's weapons. If the unmodified hit roll for the attack is a 6 and you have fewer than 9 Destiny dice, you can roll the dice and add it to your Destiny dice. So that's really cool to put on a Ogroid Thaumaturge or something that's going to be in combat, just to keep generating Destiny dice. The Spiteful Shield. If the unmodified save for an attack is a 6, the attacking unit suffers 2 mortal wounds. So again, that's pretty cool. And then demonic ones, we've got the Waterfire Blade. Melee weapon. Any hits of 6 do 2 mortal wounds in addition. The Blade of Fate. Pick one of the melee weapons. If an unmodified hit of a 6, you can replace one of your Destiny dice for that roll. Parafire Stave. Pick one of the weapons. If any wounds are inflicted to an enemy wizard, the wizard cannot unbind spells for the rest of the battle. So that's really cool. Kind of throw this on a Lord of Change and poke Teclis to stop him from unbinding your spells is pretty handy. Beacon of Mutability. Add 1 to wound rolls for all Tzeentch demons within 9 inches for melee weapons. That's pretty good. The Nine-Eyed Tome. You can reroll casting, dispelling and unbinding. And the Eternal Shroud. If the bearer is on the battlefield, roll a dice each time you spend a Destiny dice. And on a 5+, you can add another Destiny dice. So again, pretty cool. We get 2 spell laws as well. These have had a few minor tweaks, but are more or less the same. Again, there's a spell law for the mortals and a spell law for the demons. For Law of Fate, Arcane Suggestion is pretty much the same. Range of 18 inches, good. If an 8, you pick one of the effects. So it's hopeless. The unit cannot issue or receive commands. Drop your weapon, subtract 1 from hit and wound rolls. Or kneel, subtract 1 from save rolls. Shield of Fate has a range of 18, goes off on a 6. Now, has a different ability based on how many Destiny dice you've got left. So if you've got 1 to 3, target unit has a 6+ ward save. 4 to 6, you've got a 5+ ward save, or 7 to 9, they've got a 5+ ward save and they ignore the effects of spells on a 4+, so that's pretty cool. Glimpse the Future goes off on a 7. If you've got fewer than 9 Destiny dice, you can roll the dice and add it to your Destiny dice. So again, really cool. Infusion Arcanum goes off on a 5. If it's successfully cast, you add 1 to hit and wound rolls for the caster. And then Treacherous Bond goes off on a 5, has a range of 9 inches. Pick a friendly Tzeentch mortal unit. And basically, you can allocate wounds to them on a 3+ rather than taking them yourself. Bolt of Tzeentch goes off on a 7, has a range of 18. Pick an enemy unit, they suffer d6 mortal wounds. The spell cannot be cast more than once per turn, even though it appears in both of the laws. Speaking of which, the Demon Law of Change, they've got the same Bolt of Tzeentch. Treason of Tzeentch goes off on a 7, has a range of 18. If successfully cast, pick an enemy unit that has 2 or more models and is wholly within range of the caster. Roll the number of dice to the number of models in the unit. Each 6 does a mortal wound and subtract 1s to hit for them. Pretty good. Unchecked Mutation goes off on a 6, has a range of 18. If it's cast, you pick an enemy unit, they suffer d3 mortal wounds. And if any models are slain on a 3+, they suffer an additional d3 mortal wounds. Fold Reality goes off on a 7, has a range of 18. You pick a friendly Tzeentch unit that has got models that have been destroyed. On a 2+, you can return that number of models to the unit now. Thing to watch out with this one though, Pink Horrors, if they split, you cannot return them to the unit. So other units, great. Pinks, unfortunately, if you choose to split them, you can't replenish them using that spell. It'd be really good. You've just got a never-ending tide of horrors, but unfortunately you can't do that due to some of the wording on the Pink Horror War Scroll. And then Tzeentch's Firestorm goes off on an 8, has a range of 12. If it's cast, you pick an enemy unit within range and visible to the caster, and you roll 9 dice. Each 6 deals d3 mortal wounds. So yeah, nice assortment of spells. I kind of wish there was a couple more spells. You'll notice that there's only 5 spells in the Law of Change and one of them's duplicated from the Law of Fate. When you've got lots of casters on the table, you could potentially get to the point where you start running out of things to cast, but I guess that's where you bring some cheap endless spells just for using to generate fate points perhaps. Then you get to choose one of the change covens. So these have changed a little bit from the previous book in that previously there was lots of kind of command abilities and traits and artifacts that were locked to these, where now you just get an army ability for the one that you pick. So the internal conflagration improves the rend of your warp storm, billowing, warp flame, billowing, warp flame and magical flames missile attacks. So all your flamer, exalted chariot kind of abilities, they all improve their rend by 1. So pretty cool. The host duplicitous has changed quite a bit. So enemy units within 3 inches of 1 can't retreat if the unit's got 10 or more models, where I think previously it was any size unit. And in addition, once per game, when a unit of horrors is destroyed, on a 4+, you can set up a new unit of 5 horrors. So that's pretty cool. Keeps those big units of horrors ticking. It is on a 4+, and it is only once per game though, so you're kind of dependent on luck, but you know, you're playing Tzeentch. You've got to rely on luck. The Host Arcanum, that's not really changed at all. In the 1st, 3rd and 5th battle round, you just auto unbind a spell. The Cult of the Transient Form, basically you roll when a Carrick Acolyte dies. On a 2 to 5, they get to fight back before you remove the model. And on a 6, you get to add a Zangor model to a friendly Zangor unit. So that's pretty fun. The Pyrophane Cult, add 1 to hit with Sorceress Bolts by friendly Pyrophane Cult Carrick Acolytes, and in addition, any unit that suffers wounds from them, on a 5+, they suffer an additional d3 mortal wounds. So that's again really good if you go Carrick Acolyte heavy and they're all shooting magical flame at units to try and get those extra mortal wounds off. And then finally the Guild of Summoners. This one has changed a little bit and it's pretty cool. So they can't summon anything except for Lords of Change. The first Lord of Change they summon only costs 9 fate points, and then each additional one costs 18 fate points. So previously I think it went 9, 18, 30, where now it caps out at 18, so you could probably summon 3 Lords of Change over the course of the game if you kind of go heavy with your spellcasting, which, let's face it, for a Tzeentch army you probably are. If you take the Demon Fire Spark You use that turn 1, you've got your free spell off for the endless spell at the start of the game. You're starting on 4. You only need to cast 5 spells turn 1 in order to summon a Lord of Change, and with all the spell casting that you've got, that's not difficult. And as the game goes on, it's quite easy then, once you've got those, you know, high cast value models on the table, to keep summoning more stuff. So I'm going to give this one a go. I quite fancy doing I don't know, starting with Kairos and all the casty stuff I can find, and then try and summon 3 or 4 Lords of Change into the battle. I think that'd be pretty fun. So we also get some unique Path to Glory rules. So if you're a fan of the site, you'll know that we love Path to Glory and Crusade and all that kind of stuff, and we get some cool new rules added to them. Like with the other demon books, demons don't count as part of your initial kind of order of battle. Instead, you kind of unlock the ability to bring any demons. I guess the logic is that you've got your core demon of mortals, but then before the battle you can draw upon some other demons that you've kind of summoned into the battle beforehand. So that's quite a cool mechanic. Equally, there's a chance that your hero gets turned into a Chaosspawn. If he does, unfortunately he's a Chaosspawn for the rest of the campaign, so you record that on your order of battle. That's the way Tzeentch should want it. We also get some new mechanics for aerial battles, which is really fun too. So kind of carrying on from the Ether War, which is kind of mentioned earlier on in the lore section and was a previous battle box, there's some battles where it takes place kind of above the clouds. So there will be a string of scenery going across the battlefield, which is close enough to traverse, where your kind of foot troops can hop from plateau to plateau to try and get across the skies, where all your flying units can kind of go wherever they like. So because you've got like, it kind of recommends creating a single path from one side of the battlefield to the other. It means that you're going to have some choke points to fight over. Yeah, I think it's going to be quite fun. You kind of unlock those by doing your quests. Unlock some of those cool kind of centerpiece aerial battles, and you could go to town and have like cotton wool and stuff on the table to represent the clouds, and have like the tips of mountains peeking up. So yeah, I'd quite like to do some of them. The rest of the stuff very similar to, you know, what we've had in the 4. You've got veteran abilities that you can unlock. You've got kind of unique Tzeentch only territories that you can unlock during your Path to Glory. The kind of big one, the 66 one, is a silver tower, and that gives you a gaunt summoner into your order battle as well, so that's pretty fun. We also get a fun name generator as well. So yeah, Path to Glory is a lot of fun. While it's not maybe as detailed as Crusade, and that's a bit of a shame because some of the Crusade mechanics are really, really good, you still get to do some fun kind of like cinematic battles, and yeah, just kind of develop your army and kind of tell a story. You also get some warscroll battalions that again can be used in Path to Glory games, so lots of fun there. So moving on to match play rules, we get some really good grand strategies that I think are quite, well, some of them are quite easy to get with the Tzeentch army. So dominate Arcane Nexus, you need a wizard, horror or Carrick Acolyte in each quarter of the board. With the number of wizards you've got in the army, that's quite easy to do. Propendant to Fate, end the game with 27 unspent fate points. Not keen on that one really. You're probably better off using those fate points to summon units to do Dominate Arcane Nexus, for example. Realm of Magic, when the battle ends, you complete it if you've got 2 or more endless spells under your control. That's a fairly easy one to do with the number of spells that you can throw out. My favourite one though is Master of Destiny. If at the end of the battle your Destiny dice total 9 or more, you get it. That's really easy to manage. There's ways of recycling your Destiny dice. There's ways of gaining additional Destiny dice. So as long as you just make sure that you've got a total of 9 unspent, then yeah, that's really really quite easy to do. So a 5 and a 4 and just put them to one side of the rest of the battle. Yeah, you've got less Destiny dice to spend, but that is essentially a free grand strategy that you can score, so I'd probably go for that one myself. Similarly, the battle tactics are pretty good as well. So Call for Change, you score it if you summon a Lord of Change. So again, if we use that example from earlier where you get 3 for your spark, 1 for your starting endless spell, you only need to cast 5 if you're in the Guild of Summoners to get that Lord of Change turn 1 in order to get that battle tactic. So again, pretty reliable one. Equally, if you save up your fate points over the course of the game and just get that Lord of Change off at the end, pretty good, pretty good. Mass Conjuration, pick a friendly disciples as each wizard. You can complete it if that wizard successfully casts 3 or more spells in that turn. So obviously there's ways of giving wizards additional spells. Kairos can cast 3, so he is a pretty good choice if you just get all the unbind outs with your other wizards and then just cast 3 with Kairos. He's pretty reliable at getting those spells off, so that's a fairly easy one to get. So 9-4 Dismemberment, pretty cool. You pick an enemy unit that has 9 or more models, or an enemy hero or wizard with 9 or more wounds. You complete the battle tactic if they're destroyed. Again, pretty easy to do. Reckless Abandon, you pick a mortal disciples as each unit that's more than 18 inches away from all enemy units. You complete it if they complete a charge. So Zangor can run and charge. You could just send a Magister on a disc up, and then he's got like a 2-inch charge to make. So again, another pretty easy one. And then Tides of Anarchy. You complete the battle tactic if you gain control of an objective that was controlled by your opponent and you've got 9 or more friendly models within 6 inches of it. So again, I think all of those are doable. So it should be fairly easy getting those battle tactics and grand strategies done for a Tzeentch army. We get a core battalion, an interesting core battalion. Kairos and 3 Laws of Change, all compulsory. And it gives you the magnificent bonus if you take it. So no one's probably going to take this one, but it's pretty fun, especially if you're going to go big bird heavy. So moving on to the battle scrolls, and speaking of Kairos Fate Weaver, we get a couple of changes here. First of all, he's gone up 2 wounds, so he's a little bit more durable. His spell's changed to Infernal Gateway, so he now shares this with the normal Lord of Change, which is a little bit of a shame that he doesn't have his own one anymore, if only for the purposes of trying to cast as many spells as you can to generate those fate dice. He also no longer gets to just pick a dice roll once per game. Instead, at the start of the hero phase, with his Oracle of Destiny ability, if you've got less than 9 Destiny dice, you generate a new Destiny dice. So, personally, I think that's a good change. It certainly makes getting the Grand Tactic, where you need to get 9 or more on the dice results, pretty easy as well, because you can just keep generating new dice every turn with him. He's got Beacon of Sorcery, so you add 1 to casting, dispelling and binding for all Tzeentch wizards within 18 inches, and he knows all spells from the Law of Change. However, he no longer knows all the spells of all nearby wizards, which is a bit of a shame. That has gone. I think there's probably some shenanigans you could do with that, so that's probably why they've toned it down a little bit. What is really cool though is Spell Thief. So if he dispels an endless spell, instead of dispelling it, he can take control of it. So, that's a nice purple sun you've got there. It'd be a terrible shame if Kairos took control of it. And yeah, he simply just dispels it, and then he becomes the kind of controller of that endless spell. So really, really good ability. It also is shared on the Lords of Change as well, and makes casting endless spells against Tzeentch very, very dangerous, because it is quite likely that they'll be able to turn it round and sling it into your face. So yeah, I really like Kairos. He's now essentially a buffed Lord of Change, but the Oracle of Eternity ability, I think it's worth taking in your army just to keep that stream of dice coming. Like I say, the Lord of Change is now very, very similar to Kairos. So he has the add 1 to casting and knows all the spells kind of aura. They also have the Spell Thief ability, so they can also take control of endless spells. Both of them, Kairos and the Lord of Change, have Master of Magic, so when you cast, the lowest result matches the highest result, so you're always rolling doubles, you're always going to roll quite high, so that's pretty good. And then Infernal Gateway is the same as well, so yeah, really, really cool. The only thing that, it's a shame they haven't got 2 different spells, just again for the fact that if you've got multiples on the battlefield, even with the entirety of the Law of Change, unless you've got a load of endless spells, you're probably going to start running out of things that you can cast with them. Fate Skimmer is not really that different. Tzeentch's Firestorm, I think, slightly better. So you roll 9 dice for each 2 plus the target suffers D3 mortal wounds. The Arcane Tome has changed, so you can now re-roll 1 of the casting dice and add 3 to the result once per game. Chaosspawn have had a bit of a buff. So if a spell goes off from a wizard within 9 inches of them, they heal back all their wounds, which is cool. And then any hits of 6 suffer, deal a mortal wound, and the attack sequence ends. So considering they've got 2d6 attacks, and there's ways of turning enemy models into Chaos Spawns and having them locked in combat. Yeah, they're pretty cool. Certainly for creating them using some of the shenanigans in the book, I think Chaos Spawn's going to be pretty fun. The Fluxmaster, he's a really old model, but he's pretty good now as a bit of a fate dice generator. So Blue Fire of Tzeentch has changed a little bit. You pick an enemy unit, you roll 9 dice, each 5+ deals a mortal wound, and you also gain a fate point. So yeah, on a lucky roll, you are generating quite a lot of fate points. Again, if we go back to the Guild of Summoners, you've got the Demon Sparks, you've got your 3 free ones, you've got 1 from your free spell that you've caught at the start of the game. You cast this, you get an additional 1. What's that, 5 already? On average, you're going to get 3 fate points. So from a single cast at the start of the game, you've already got 9 points that you can summon that Lord of Change with. And again, as you get more wizards on the table, that kind of escalates. So yeah, I quite like him. With a lucky roll, you can generate quite a lot of fate points. So quite like him. The Changeling, I don't think has had any massive changes. I think he used to be able to steal spells from friendly enemy units as well. He no longer gets that. Changecaster has had a few little changes. Pink Fire now subtracts 1 from save rolls for a target unit, which is pretty cool. The Blue Scribes have also changed a little bit. Again, they're more of a fate point generator now. So if a enemy wizard successfully casts a spell within 9 inches of them, you roll a dice, and on a 3+, you get an additional fate point in addition to the fate point you get for that spell being cast. So again, between these two, certainly with the Blue Scribes, if you're fighting a magical heavy army, you can generate a lot of fate dice. If you're fighting something like Khorne, then obviously there's no additional benefit for the Blue Scribes. That ability doesn't trigger off friendly wizards, only enemy wizards. So he is a little bit situational. He still knows all the spells from this book and just casts it on a 2+, and it can't be unbound. So that's pretty cool. I still think he's worth taking for that situational ability, but obviously he's 5 wounds and a 4+ save. He can be targeted down if people kind of know what you're doing. He's just, you know, hanging around units of Lumineth to try and generate extra fate dice. I suspect they'll probably shoot him pretty pronto. Horrors of Tzeentch have got their war scroll from the recent update that was on Warhammer Community. So basically, removed models don't count towards battle shock, so that's great. You don't suffer battle shock for losing those models. However, you can never gain them back, so you can't do the reinforce command ability. You can't use the spell early in the book to bring them back. Once a pink's gone, it's gone, and it can't be brought back. I quite like that. Instead, of course, you can do the Petty Vengeance ability, in which case you can bring them back, but you don't get blue horrors, you just do kind of like mortal wounds. So the horrors have gone through quite a few revisions over the years. I'm quite happy with this loadout for them. You still get the kind of like endless swarm of splitting horrors, but you don't get the frustration of somebody just bringing back extra pink horrors every turn. So I think this is a nice mid-ground for them. All the abilities are the same as they were on that war scroll as well, so no massive changes there. Flamers, there's buffs and nerfs to them. Their attacks have gone down across the board. However, they've now got -1 rend on them, which I don't think they had before. And if they're shooting a unit that has 5 or more models, they get +1 to hit, and that is in both flavours. So that's pretty cool. The standard flamers now again get +1 to hit when they're targeting a unit of 5 or more, and they add 1 to their attack characteristic if they're near an exalted flamer or a burning chariot as well. So there's quite a bit of synergy between these guys. I think they're quite fun. Obviously, if you have them in the cult that favours flamers as well, you get additional rend on all those. So and there are ways of making these battle line as well in that cult. So that's pretty cool if you want a flamer heavy army. Screamers, a couple of changes. The bite doesn't do extra damage against monsters anymore, but they cause them mortal wounds when they fly over something on a 4+. I think previously it was a 5+. But other than that, no real changes there. I think they may have gained rend -1. I think it was 0 before. Gaunt Summoner. You now get the disc version within the book as well, and he's changed quite a lot. So that the summoning mechanic that he used to have is completely removed. He can't summon kind of new units. Instead, at the start of the battle, you can put 2 units in the Silver Tower and then essentially deep strike them during the battle. During the game, you can put them down 9 inches away from enemy units and within 9 inches of him. So that's pretty cool to get, you know, tactical units down where you need them. His other ability is really fun as well. So if an enemy model targets him, sorry, an enemy hero targets him with an attack, a spell, an ability, whatever, he can roll 2d6, and if he beats their wounds characteristic, that hero is teleported to the Silver Tower. They're not slain, so any rules that prevent a model from being auto-slain don't come into effect. So if, say, Little Marathi cast a spell at him, he would get to use that ability against her. If he can roll over a wounds characteristic of, what, 6 is it? She would get teleported to the Silver Tower. Because she's not slain, her rule wouldn't trigger. Now obviously Big Marathi is to be on the table, and you've still got to deal with that, and that still gets all its rules. But it's a nice little ability for just spiriting away any models. There's no ward saves to make because you're not causing wounds. There's no evading death because you're not slaying the model. You just teleport it off the battlefield. So technically it's still alive, it just is not involved in the battle anymore. So that's quite a fun ability, and there could be some sneaky shenanigans going on there. Now obviously, as people get wise to this book, they're just not going to target a Gaunt Summoner. But that means you can be quite ballsy with it and throw it onto like objectives and stuff. If, say there's a scenario where heroes need to kill other heroes, it is a gamble targeting the Gaunt Summoner if you've got less than 12 wounds, so that's quite a fun one. I quite like that. Onto the mortal stuff, there's not really any massive changes here. A few things have been tweaked here or there. The Curseling, interestingly, keeps his updated weapon profiles from the battle box. However, he's back to his old rules. So he's got a spell where he can steal a spell from another caster, which is really good on a 2+. And if he unbinds a spell, he can automatically cast that spell and try and steal it as well. So he's really, really cool. Obviously, you've got to watch out for that, the keywords and stuff, because there might be some spells that you can't use. But it's a nice situation one to have to really annoy your opponent by stealing one of their good spells. Magister, I don't think has changed too much at all. The Eyes of the Nine haven't changed. Fatemaster has. He's got a new ability now, which again, it's a really old model, but he gets a decent ability. Lord of Fate, add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by friendly Tzeentch models within 9 inches. So really good one to kind of buff up your units. Zangor, for example, near him are wounding on 2s. So yeah, I feel a lot of people might be buying these old models because they're pretty good in the book now. Ogroid Thaumaturge doesn't do any impact hits anymore, but instead he adds 1 to hit and wound rolls when he's wounded. So I still like him, he's a nice model. I do like that guy. Zangor Shamans, unfortunately no longer, I think they were +1 to hit for nearby, Enlightened and Skyfires. That is now gone, unfortunately. He still has his Boon of Mutation. But yeah, the really cool kind of like supportive abilities that he had, that is gone now, unfortunately. Skyfires still have their bows that cause mortal wounds. What's really cool as well is they ignore modifiers to hit or wound, and enemy unit that is shot by the arrows can't modify their save positively either. So essentially that means that they shoot something, that target can't use all out defense, or they can use all out defense, but they don't get the benefit of it. So that's pretty cool. Again, same if they hit on a 6, it suffers D3 mortal wounds and the attack sequence ends, so they're pretty cool. They've only got 1 shot each though, so they're not quite as brutal as the Lumineth Sentinels. Zangor Enlightened, both on foot and on disc, match the abilities that they've got in the battle box. So enemy units within 3 inches cannot receive commands, which is a really, really cool ability that A, is frustrating, which is great, and B, it makes them a bit more survivable. You can use them quite tactically to you know, stop all that attack, all that defence. You can stop people auto-saving morale, all that kind of stuff. So there's lots of shenanigans you can do with them, especially the version on disc because they move so fast. They've still got the Guided by the Past ability that was in the battle box too. So you add 1 to wound if you go second, but arguably just take a Fatemaster and you get that all the time. So yeah, I like the Azangor Enlightened on discs more so than the Skyfires, but there are some shenanigans you can do with those. Saves can't be modified upwards, so that's pretty cool. Zangors have had a bit of a shuffle around. All their wounds are now on a 3+, so again, stick them near the Fatemaster, is it? It's a wounded on a 2+. Other than that, the rules are pretty much the same. Some things have been clarified and folded into the profile. So the Savage Blades just hits on a 3 and has 3 attacks on the profile if you've got 2 of them, rather than it being a bit of text in there. Just makes it a lot more easier to follow. And Karakat Lights as well. They have been shifted from their version that was in the Battle Box back to what they had in the Battletome, which is interesting. So yeah, they are wizards again. They can all cast that Gestalt sorcery spell again, which again as a battle line option makes them a really nice way of generating those fate points as well. So interesting that they've changed back, because I really thought they'd remove the wizard element from them. They still need to have like over 9 models in order to be a wizard, so really it's your 20-man squads, because a 10-man squad, your opponent just needs to kill a model to stop them from being a wizard. But yeah, they're pretty cool. Again, they've got their range attack, so if you have them in the Coven, that kind of improves their range attack too. They become quite nice as well. We then get the 3 endless spells. The one that's had the biggest change really is the Burning Sigil. So that's changed completely. It now goes down 18 inches away and creates like a 9-inch kind of like mutation aura, let's say. So anything within 9 inches at the end of the movement phase, and that is friend or foe, on a 4+ suffers D3 mortal wounds. The first model killed by that each turn turns into a Chaosspawn, which is really cool. So you can feed it acolytes in your half of the board and turn them into Chaosspawns. Or what I'd probably do is take this as your free one. You still got to pay the points for it, but the one that you can cast for free at the start of the game. 18 inches away, pop that so it kind of affects the enemy deployment zone, and that makes their turn 1 movement quite tricky, because they run the risk of just walking through this thing and suffering mortal wounds and having Chaos Spawns pop up in their half the board. So, and obviously they can't get rid of it turn 1 as well, so I quite like that one. It's probably the one I'd use for the free summon. Tome of Eyes has had some just amendments now. Basically the tome will follow around the caster, so when the caster moves you set the tome up again within 1 inch of them. It's basically just a magic book that follows them. It still has the Parchment Curse as well, so you cast it on a unit, they suffer mortal wounds, and then each mortal wound caused reduces their bravery if you want to do some kind of bravery shenanigans. Again, that combos quite well if you've got the Enlightened who can stop them from using command abilities as well. And in addition, the caster can re-roll casting rolls as well. So yeah, pretty good spell. And then the Demonic Simulacrum is exactly the same. Flies around, does mortal wounds to things. It's more likely to get mortal wounds on wizards. So they're pretty nice. I really like the Burning Sigil for the shenanigans it can do. And then finally look at the points. The good news is that none of these points values have changed. So in the recent General's Handbook, all of those points are exactly the same. I suspect that those points were written for this book, and the book was probably meant to come out alongside that one, but unfortunately due to the Will of Chaos, it was delayed. So the good news is that you've not really got any changing to do in your army, apart from maybe shifting around some of those units that maybe are a little bit better and you want to include now. Yeah, a couple of units have had a few little nerfs here or there, but on the whole I think there's some positive changes to the army. Like I said at the start of the video, there's no kind of like massive sweeping changes to the army. I think it worked as a whole, it just needed the rough edges kind of sanding off it. So I guess if you're expecting a massively different book, you're probably going to be a little bit disappointed, but I think there's enough positive changes to definitely make this one worthwhile. And yeah, I'm definitely going to be digging out my Tzeentch army and trying some games with these in the near future. So yeah, if you've liked this review, we've got a full write-up over on spruesandbrews.com as well. We do a lot of unboxings and battle reports and reviews and that kind of stuff, so if you don't already, why not subscribe to the channel and check out all the cool content as it comes out. We've also got a podcast and loads on the website. We're going to have some battle reports coming back very soon as well, so hopefully the house move has been delayed, but hopefully I'll be in the new studio very soon and we'll be able to we want to do some battle reports with the latest book, so probably going to be Disciples of Tzeentch at that point once we're in. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, hope you have a great weekend.